Hey guys, how you doing today? Just here with my little pupperino. Oh yeah, he's gonna have a little bark. We've been pretty quiet today. Here, let me give you a little shot of my little puppers. Isn't he the sweetest little guy? Yes, he's the sweetest little guy. So today I really wanted to talk about the Trinity Bellwoods incident, right, that happened here in Ontario. And it is an incident. It should be described as such. You even have like the Toronto Sun putting a picture of Trinity Bellwoods. For those of you who don't know, Trinity Bellwoods is a park. We had a nice day of weather here in Toronto, and lots of people showed up at Trinity Bellwoods because they were like, it's a nice day and we want to have a good time on the May 2-4 weekend, right? People in the park, the people in the park, right? They interviewed some of them, and they really gave the tale of what it is, which is there's been no end date set for this virus, and this it's nice weather, and is this such a serious thing anyway? So I'm not gonna lose my summer to this. And I think it's easy to say, oh, what a bunch of idiots, and I think it's easy to be like, okay, they're just being dummies. But I mean, there's two things to think about, right? First, I mean, people follow their leader, right? And if it seems like their leader is not taking it seriously, like our mayor, John Tory, he was there. There's pictures of him. He was at Trinity Bellwoods, right? He wasn't wearing a mask, not just sort of milling around with the populace, right? Who shouldn't have been there in the first place, and in fact, they should have been cleared out for sure. And I mean, Doug Ford has done things like he's gone to his cottage and all that, right? And so I just think people follow their leader, right? And they don't take this crisis very seriously. But the second thing that I think really needs to be talked about, and I didn't really realize it until I had started thinking about the people at the Trinity Bellwoods thing, is, okay, have you ever seen a victim of COVID-19? Ever? Like, really think about it. Have you seen like a before and after shot of somebody who had, who didn't have COVID and then did have COVID and had to be treated? Have you seen a before and after shot? Have you seen even a medical professional really working on somebody who has COVID-19? No? Why do you think that is? Right? And really, I think that and I have seen this, like I've gone and I've looked and I've found like people are posting their own personal stories online. Social media sites have these stories. There are before and after shots. They do exist. But, you got to go digging and you got to go looking for them. And they come across, your sort of social media platforms, right? And so my question is, where are the journalists reporting this? Why are these before and after shots not being shown in the Toronto Star, in the National Post, in the Globe and Mail, on Global TV? Like, where are the actual victims of the COVID-19 crisis so that people can see what this is and understand what it is we're fighting? And I started to think about that. Like, because that's the number one way. You want to convince somebody that this crisis is serious. You want to convince somebody that this is a serious thing that should be taken seriously. You're going to show them what happens to people who get hit with this thing and who have to deal with it, right? Like, I remember I saw a shot of a fellow who was like a bodybuilder, right? He was a big, muscly guy who obviously took care of himself, and he got emaciated. He obviously lost huge amounts of muscle mass. He was just absolutely emaciated by this virus. And where are the like interviews with people who have recovered from this, who are like, yeah, like it messes with your health for a long time. Like there are reports of COVID-19 people, it might actually do permanent lung damage, right? Like it might actually reduce the capacity of your lungs permanently for the rest of your life. And these sorts of things are just not well known, and people don't talk about them. And so why is it that the media is not simply doing the number one thing? The reason we have a media, the reason a media exists, like if you have a war, right? If you have a war, this is what happened in the Vietnam War. right? You have a war, and it's up to the media to actually show the costs of that war on a personal level. That's the point. Which is why, now that the media is owned by corporations, and why corporations control the media, you never see the bodies, right? You never see the body bags. You never see the actual human cost of war, because that goes against the interest of the corporations. And I think the exact same thing is happening here with the COVID-19 crisis. I think very explicitly, like, there's this narrative, reopen the economy, reopen the economy. Well, of course the corporations are interested in reopen the economy. They don't give a fuck about the workers, right? That if you die, if you get COVID-19 and die, then they'll just replace you, right? And they'll just find somebody else, and they'll just do it that way, because they don't care about you at all. They care about their bottom line. They care about money. And they've shown that. They've proven that. You've got professional hacks like John Ivison, who are telling people to go die working at these jobs. You've got political demons like Andrew Scheer telling people we should kick them off this CERB thing, and they should go die working these jobs. So it's no surprise whatsoever that would funnel into the media. That the number one thing that a media could do to actually stop these Trinity Bellwood things from occurring is show people the actual consequences of what it means to actually get this thing, and what it actually means to have to deal with it. But none of that exists, right? Where's the expose? Where's any amount of time spent doing this kind of stuff? It doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist because the corporations want to reopen. They're not interested in preventing the disease. They're not interested in stopping any of this from happening. They're not interested in any of that. What they're interested in is putting people back to work and squeezing as much blood from the stone as they possibly can. Like, and this is a deep challenge. I challenge anyone. Like, find me an article from the Toronto Star, from the Globe and Mail, from the National Post that's actually talking to and showing the consequences of this virus in a meaningful way. Where's an article that even shows, without having a person, just like the step-by-step, like, what is this? What's the point of having a media if they're not actually going to give you the information in a straightforward way? And the best that the media will ever do is like, well, there's a lot going on. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's your job to figure it out. You'll publish like a 5th or 6th article from John Ivison telling people to go fuck off and die, but you're not going to actually publish an article that shows what this virus is, what are the consequences of it, how does it impact people, what needs to be done, what are people actually doing. None of that is happening in corporate media, right? And it's because the corporations don't give a shit about us. They don't care what happens to this virus. The people who own these institutions have gone to their island paradises. They're in their little offshore things. They don't want the populace to understand what's happening. They don't want anybody to know what's going on, right? And they're more than happy that information gets spread around, that misinformation happens. They're more than happy about that, because misinformation is exactly how they maintain their position of power, right? It's exactly how they maintain credibility at this moment, is they just confuse the issues. They make sure that nobody knows what's going on so that they can push forward their own personal agenda to benefit themselves. And if a bunch of people die because of it, oh well. Like, these people are pushing for wars, for God's sakes. They obviously don't care about you. And so consider this a gauntlet dropped. Prove me wrong. I'll be happy to see anybody prove me wrong on this. You can't, because I pay a lot of attention to this stuff, and I'm yet to see any institution actually do what these institutions are designed or philosophically there to do. They're not interested in that. Like, what we're facing right now and this is just my own personal research, right? What we're facing right now is this unknown disease that has a high level of contagion. And this is the thing. It has a high level of contagion, but you can have it and not have any symptoms, right? That's pretty well understood. But that's just a roll of the dice, right? We don't know why it is that some people get it and are just completely fine, and then some people get it and it's this absolute disaster for them. We don't understand that. We don't understand what it is that causes problems for some people, but it's totally fine for others. And like there's literally like 20-year-olds who can suddenly just get into this enormously horrible situation. People who traditionally we think like, oh, well, if it's like a flu, then X, Y, and Z. But it's just completely not the case. And we've even got studies now that are showing that kids are these just like incubators of this. And God help us if this thing mutates. Like, God help us if this thing takes a right turn and suddenly we're just facing up against something different and something new that we couldn't deal with before. Like right now we're dealing with it and we think that it's mainly transmitted through droplets, right? We think that it's mainly droplets where it comes from, but that can take a right turn and we don't have control of this thing. We don't have control of this thing. We don't really know what's going on with it. And stuff like the Trinity Bellwoods moment shows us pretty clearly that we're not taking this seriously as a people. And we're not taking it seriously because our leaders are not taking it seriously, obviously. They're setting a terrible example. Shame on you, John Tory. Shame on you, John Tory, for going out to Trinity Bellwoods. And shame on you, Doug Ford, for going out to your cottage, right? For like, you talk a big game when it comes time to read cue cards in front of people and put on the sad face. But when it comes time to actually act like an adult and act like a leader, you fail miserably. And you're gonna continue failing, and we know it's absolutely true. Because you don't actually care about these things you're talking about. It's all just presentation as far as you're concerned, which is why you went and made that cake. We all know it's bullshit. We all know it's just Mr. Dress-Up bullshit. Stop. Your actions are what we care about. Your actions, the way you act, is what we care about. And our political class is failing, absolutely abysmally failing at setting an example, at presenting themselves and showing themselves as actual leaders. And then on top of that, our media is absolutely not covering this thing appropriately. Show these victims. Show the people, right? I don't give a shit if it scares people, horrifies people, or makes people vomit. I don't give two shits about that. These people need to be scared. These people need to be scared. This thing is the most deadly virus we've encountered in our lifetimes. It's a serious disease that has serious ramifications. What the hell are people doing? Clapping out in the streets and ringing bells for our medical professionals, and we refuse to actually show what they're fighting. What is it? Is it like Voldemort? Is it like a boogeyman? Right? Why can't we just be adults? Show the people what's going on, show the people what's happening so that maybe they'll go, oh shit, this is a real thing that has real consequences and I'm involved in. Maybe I won't go to Trinity Bellwoods. Maybe I'll stay away from the beaches. Maybe I'll actually make a rational decision based on information that I have. But guess what? They don't have that information. They haven't been presented with that information, and nobody's actually doing the work. What do you guys do all day? Do you just write these stupid op-eds about how people should go back to work? Looks like. Right? Grow a pair. Grow a pair of balls. Do your job. I don't know what you're paid for. And fucking make it happen. All right, my dog's in a crisis. I gotta go help him. Good luck.